A dealership in Ohio charged a guy $847 to fix squeaking brakes. The shop cleaned the calipers, installed new pads, turned the rotors, charged $847, and handed him the keys. The car squeaked again within 2 weeks. He went back. They said he needed new rotors now. Another $400. He paid it. The car still squeaked. That is $1,247, and his brakes still screamed at every stop sign in his neighborhood. Here is the part that will make your blood boil. The actual fix cost $5.47 at AutoZone. 1 tube of caliper grease, 30 minutes on a Saturday, and those brakes have been dead silent for 2 years. Today I am going to show you exactly what the dealer did not do, why they did not do it, and the complete Japanese method that the biggest brake manufacturer in the world uses on every single original equipment manufacturer brake job they have ever shipped. This is the method Honda, Toyota, General Motors, Ford, Audi, and Volkswagen all use on the factory floor, and it is being hidden from you in plain sight. Let us start with the most important thing nobody ever tells you about squeaking brakes. The squeak is not a brake problem. It is a physics problem. When your brake pads press against the rotor, you are creating friction. That friction generates heat, but under certain conditions, at a specific speed, temperature, or contact angle, the pad and rotor stop sliding against each other smoothly and start vibrating. Not random shaking, molecular level vibration at frequencies above 5,000 hertz. The experts at Ferodo, one of the oldest brake manufacturers on Earth, describe it exactly like this. The disc, pads, and caliper can start vibrating the same way a violin string vibrates when a horsehair bow is drawn across it. You are the bow. The rotor is the string. And every stop sign is a concert nobody asked for. That single analogy changes everything. Because if the squeak is a vibration problem, then replacing the pads does not solve it. Turning the rotors does not solve it. Spraying brake cleaner on everything does not solve it. You need to stop the vibration at the source. And that is exactly what the Japanese figured out decades ago, while American dealerships were still telling customers they just needed new parts. Before we get into the method, let me tell you exactly who developed it. Meet Akebono, the company that quietly runs the entire brake industry. Akebono was founded in Japan in 1929. They have been designing brakes for over 90 years. They are the original inventor of low-dust ceramic pad technology. They are not just a brake company. They are the brake company. Akebono is the original equipment manufacturer, brake supplier for Toyota, Honda, General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Audi, Volkswagen, Mitsubishi, and Isuzu. That means when any of those manufacturers build a car on the assembly line and install factory brakes, there is a significant chance those pads came from Akebono. These are not aftermarket parts. These are the original equipment that ships with brand new cars from the factory. And here is the thing that matters to you right now. Akebono specifically developed their entire manufacturing process around 3 things: anti-vibration shims, edge chamfering, and precision surface finish. Those are not random engineering choices. That is the Japanese method. And when it is applied correctly, brakes do not squeak. Period. The problem is that dealers do not follow it, because if they did, you would never need to come back for another brake noise complaint, and they would lose a revenue stream that is worth hundreds of dollars every single visit. Here is what a dealership actually does when you bring in a car with squeaking brakes. Step 1. A service advisor writes up the complaint. Step 2. A technician pulls the car in, glances at the pad thickness, and if there is anything under half worn, they call you and say the pads are worn and you need a full brake job. That is $250 to $500 per axle, sometimes $450 to $900 if they throw calipers in too. Step 3. They slap on new pads, maybe turn or replace the rotors, spray everything down with brake cleaner, and send you on your way. What they almost never do is the actual fix. They do not clean and properly lubricate the caliper slide pins. They do not install anti-squeal shims correctly. They do not chamfer the edges of the pads. And they do not perform a proper brake bedding procedure. Those 4 things together cost $5 in materials and 30 extra minutes of labor. A dealership with $130 to $200 per hour labor has zero financial incentive to spend that extra time on something that prevents you from ever coming back. Let me prove it to you. A post on one of the biggest Toyota owner forums documents a man who put fresh Akabono pads on his Corolla. Within days, the brake squeal was so bad, his sister refused to drive the car. He went to a mechanic. The mechanic told him he needed new rotors. He did not. The issue was one missing step from the Japanese method: improper lubrication on the slide pins. On the Akabono forums, the company's own engineers are clear about this. Missing anti-squeal hardware and incorrect grease specification are the 2 most common causes of brake noise, even with brand new pads installed the same day. Yet go to any dealership in America right now with squeaking brakes and watch how many of them bring up slide pin lubrication. Almost none. Now let's talk about what actually causes the squeak in the first place, so you understand exactly why this method works. There are 5 sources. You need to kill all 5. Source number 1 is seized or dry caliper slide pins. Every disc brake caliper floats on 2 cylindrical pins. These pins allow the caliper to slide back and forth as the pads wear down, keeping even pressure on both sides of the rotor. When those pins dry out, and they dry out because the rubber boots that protect them crack with age and let water in, the caliper stops floating correctly. One side of the pad drags harder than the other. The pad wears at an angle, and an angled pad vibrates. This is the most common cause of brake squeal on cars with over 40,000 miles, and it costs exactly nothing to fix if you already have a tube of the right grease. Source number 2 is missing or worn anti-squeal shims. Behind every brake pad is a thin metal plate, usually coated with a rubber damping layer. Its entire job is to absorb the high-frequency vibrations before they turn into audible noise. When mechanics reuse old shims, install aftermarket pads that come without shims, or skip the shims entirely because they are in a hurry, that vibration-absorbing layer is gone. The pad and the caliper piston are now metal on metal, with nothing to dampen the signal. The violin string has no mute. The result is a screech you can hear 2 blocks away. Source number 3 is a glazed rotor surface. When a rotor gets too hot without being properly bedded in, especially if someone rides the brakes coming down a long hill or hammers them hard before the pads have settled, the surface of both the pad and the rotor can overheat and develop a glassy, hardened layer. That glazed surface has a completely different friction coefficient than the rest of the pad. Instead of smooth, consistent friction, you get stick slip. The pad sticks, releases, sticks, releases. And that rhythmic pattern at high frequency is exactly the squeal you are hearing. Source number 4 is contamination. 1 drop of brake fluid, 1 splash of oil, 1 accidental hit of WD-40 on the friction face of a pad is enough to cause noise that sounds like you are tearing sheet metal. The contamination does not have to come from you. Old caliper seals that are beginning to weep fluid can put a thin film on the inner pad over time. You would never see it with a visual inspection, but the pad knows it is there, and it screams accordingly. Source number 5 is incorrect pad geometry, specifically a 90-degree square edge on the leading and trailing face of the brake pad. Most budget brake pads and some mid-tier ones come straight off the mold with a perfectly flat square edge. When that sharp edge contacts the rotor, It creates a hard vibration point. The Japanese solution, perfected by Akabono engineers and now used throughout the industry, is to chamfer that edge. A 30-degree taper on the first quarter-inch of the leading and trailing edge of each pad completely changes the contact dynamics. Instead of a hard corner hitting the rotor and vibrating, you get a smooth ramp in that absorbs the contact energy. Akabono uses precision manufacturing techniques to build this chamfer directly into every pad they sell. Budget aftermarket brands do not bother, and the difference in noise is night and day. Before we walk through the complete fix step by step, do me a quick favor. If this is already saving you money, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who are about to hand a dealership $500 for something that costs $5. Okay, here is the complete Japanese method. 5 steps, about 45 minutes total, and if you follow all of them in order, your brakes will be silent. Not quieter, silent. Step 1. Clean the caliper slide pins. Pull the wheels. You will see the caliper bolted to a bracket. There are 2 slide pins holding that caliper on. Remove them. On most cars, they have an 8mm or 10mm hex head on a threaded bolt with a rubber boot over a cylindrical pin behind it. Pull the pin out completely. Wipe it down with a clean rag. Look at the rubber boot. If it is cracked, split, or torn, you need a new one. Slide pin boot kits cost about $6 at any parts store, and they are absolutely worth replacing. Clean the pin bore and the caliper bracket with a cotton swab or brake cleaner. Make sure there is no rust or debris inside. Now, here is the critical part that almost nobody gets right: the grease. You cannot use regular wheel bearing grease. You cannot use moly grease. You definitely cannot use WD-40. The correct specification is JISK2228, approved silicone-based grease. In America, the products that meet this specification are CRC Silaramic Brake Caliper Lube and Toyota Pink Brake Grease, also sold as Silglide. One of these will cost you between $5 and $8 at AutoZone, O'Reilly, or any parts store. Why does the specification matter? Standard petroleum-based grease swells the rubber boots and causes the pins to seize gradually. When pins seize, the caliper stops floating, the pad drags, the pad vibrates, and you are back to squealing inside of a year. The JIS spec silicone grease is compatible with the rubber boots and stays in place through heat cycling for years. Apply a thin coat around the full length of the pin. Reinstall it, compress the boot so air can escape, and torque the pin back to specification. Step 2. Replace or refresh the anti-squeal shims. If your replacement pads came with new shims, use them. Install them with a rubber damping layer facing the caliper piston and the caliper body, not the rotor. Apply a thin film of the same caliper grease to the back of the shim where it contacts the caliper piston. This creates a thin lubricating layer between the piston face and the shim that absorbs any remaining vibration that gets through. If your pads did not come with shims, which happens with cheaper aftermarket brands, you can buy universal anti-squeal shim kits for about $8 online. This step alone has fixed brake noise for thousands of people who spent hundreds of dollars at shops and got nowhere. Step 3. Chamfer the edges. Take the new brake pads before you install them. Use a metal file or a 60-grit piece of sandpaper wrapped around a block. On the leading edge and the trailing edge of each pad, the front-facing and rear-facing short ends, apply a 30-degree bevel for roughly the first quarter-inch of pad thickness. You are not grinding away pad material. You are just breaking that sharp 90-degree corner. It takes about 2 minutes per pad. This is the exact process Akabono engineers built into their precision manufacturing, and it eliminates the hard contact vibration point that is responsible for a large percentage of brake squeals. Step 4. Apply anti-squeal compound to the correct surfaces. Permatex Ultra Disc Brake Caliper Lube, sometimes called Blue Permatex, costs about $5 and is available everywhere. Apply a thin layer to the back of the brake pad, the steel backing plate only, never the friction material. Apply it to the caliper piston face. Apply it anywhere metal contacts metal in the brake assembly, except the rotor and the friction surface of the pad. This is a noise-dampening compound, not a lubricant. It stays pliable through heat cycling and continues absorbing vibration long after regular grease would dry out and crack. One tube does a complete four-wheel brake job. This is the step most mechanics skip entirely because it adds 5 minutes and costs nothing if you already have it on the shelf. The dealer does not have it on the shelf because they are not doing it. Step 5. The bedding procedure. This step closes the loop, and it is the step that makes the difference between brakes that squeak for the first 3 months and brakes that are quiet from the first application. New pads and rotors have surfaces that are not optimized for each other out of the box. The rotor is smooth and the pad is flat. They need to develop a microscopically thin, even transfer layer of pad material across the entire rotor surface before they will work together properly. Without that layer, the contact is inconsistent. With it, friction is smooth and consistent. Smooth, consistent friction does not vibrate. It does not squeak. Here is the correct bedding sequence, as used by virtually every professional brake manufacturer in the world. Drive to a light traffic area. Accelerate to 30 miles per hour. Apply the brakes firmly but not harshly, enough to slow the car down but not enough to lock the wheels. And decelerate to about 5 miles per hour. Do not come to a complete stop. Release the brakes and allow the car to roll for a full 30 seconds to let the pads cool slightly. Repeat this sequence 8 to 10 times. Then drive for 3 to 5 miles of light city, driving without any hard braking. Now, repeat the entire sequence again, starting at 40 miles per hour. For 8 to 10 more stops, let the brakes cool completely before parking. Drive normally for 5 minutes, do not park in a garage immediately, and absolutely do not apply the parking brake on a brand new brake job until the rotors have cooled to ambient temperature. Setting the parking brake while the rotors are hot imprints the pad pattern onto the rotor surface and causes a pulsation that sounds exactly like a squeak. This process typically takes 20 to 25 minutes on an empty road. It is the same bedding protocol that Akebono recommends for its OEM supply customers. It is the same one that brake manufacturers from Faraday to EBC publish on their technical sites. And it is virtually never performed at most dealerships in America because it requires the technician to take the car out of the service bay and drive it for 30 minutes, which cuts into the next ticket in the queue. The total cost of everything I just described is this. CRC Silaramic or Toyota to Pink Grease, $5 to $7. Permatex Ultra Disc Caliper Lube, $5. Anti-squeal shims, if not included with your pads, $8. A metal file or sandpaper you probably already own, $0. If you are also doing a pad and rotor replacement yourself, you are looking at $60 to $120 in parts at AutoZone for most vehicles, versus $400 to $900 at a dealer. You do the math. Now let me tell you what happens when this method is not followed, because there is a safety issue buried in here. When caliper slide pin seize, the caliper stops retracting properly after you release the brake pedal. That means one pad stays in contact with the rotor even when you are not braking. The pad overheats, and the rotor overheats. You can smell it, that sharp burning smell after a long drive that you are telling yourself is probably nothing. It is not nothing. A rotor that runs continuously hot warps faster, wears faster, and in extreme cases can crack. A frozen caliper can also cause brake drag severe enough to set a wheel on fire at highway speed. This has happened. There are documented incidents. The NTSB has files on it. And the root cause in most cases is a seized slide pin that had not been serviced in over 80,000 miles because nobody ever told the owner they needed maintenance. Dealers often do not tell you this because servicing slide pins and shims is a $30 maintenance item. Replacing warped rotors and seized calipers after the fact is a $600 repair. The incentive structure is not on your side. One more thing worth knowing. Not all brake pad materials are created equal when it comes to noise. Organic pads, the cheapest option, use fiber compounds that are genuinely quiet, but wear fast and do not handle heat well. Semi-metallic pads have excellent stopping power and heat tolerance, but are noisier by nature because the metal content in the friction material produces more vibration at the pad rotor interface. Ceramic pads, which Akebono pioneered as an original innovation in the 1980s, use a ceramic fiber compound that generates significantly less vibration, runs cooler, and produces almost no dust. For street driving, ceramic pads combined with the 5-step method outlined here produce the quietest possible brake setup money can buy. A set of Akebono Pro Ace T ceramic pads for most passenger cars runs $30 to $55 on Rock Auto or Amazon, not $300. There is a reason every major automaker trusts Akebono with their original equipment manufacturer brake supply. The company with 90 years of brake engineering expertise built its entire design philosophy around anti-vibration shims, chamfered edges, and surface engineering. It understood something that American service departments still apparently have not figured out. Brake noise is never about the noise. It is about the vibration underneath it. Fix the vibration and the noise disappears, not temporarily, forever. The next time a service advisor quotes you $400 for a brake noise diagnostic and pad replacement, you will know exactly what to say. You will know what they are going to do, you will know what they are going to skip, and you will know that a tube of silicone caliper grease from the parts store costs $5.47 and takes 30 minutes to apply correctly. That is the Japanese method. That is what gets buried. And now it is yours. If this saved you money today, hit subscribe and the bell so you catch the next video. Drop a comment below and tell me what they quoted you at your last brake service visit. The numbers people are sharing are genuinely insane. Thanks for watching. See you next time.